So, Andy, I'm a college professor. I make no money now that we're here and everything's calm. And so I started a side hustle. He was my first intern, and then people liked what we did. So he and I are basically on this journey together of doing content.
And for those of you listening, we keep pointing at Zach, the intern.
Zach Johnson, everybody. Where do we find you, Zach? Super Good People.
Yeah, check out Super Good People Instagram.
And sauced.tv, which is your little side project, for sure.
Everybody's got a side hustle. Dr. Sam J's got 5 or 6.
He keeps me young. He gets. I figure out what the 25-year-old crowd likes from that guy. So, yeah. Okay.
Flannel and beanies.
We're recording. Cheers. Jay and I are here. We are in the back in the Tivoli conference room.
Our home away from home.
Well, mostly because they don't charge us for beer.
Yeah, beer or it's really like a ad hoc podcast studio.
It kind of is.
I did have an epiphany just a few minutes ago that they really should run a couple of tap lines straight into this room.
I like that idea.
When Ken sticks his head in here again, I'm going to point it out to him.
They should. And who are we here with? Introduce yourself,
please,
young man.
My name is Andy Sparhawk. I'm the craft beer web manager for Brewers Association. Craftbeer.com is my website.
Okay.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me.
No, this is an honor. Okay, how do you two know each other? You know each other.
Yeah, go. You want to do it, Andy, or you want me to do it? It's a convoluted web of dirty, nasty stuff.
You know, if you go all the way back, we went to elementary school together.
Set up, really? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
We went to elementary school together. My brother was in the same grade as Jay's brother.
Okay.
So we've known each other for
like
30 years.
Couple of Southwest Denver Irish Catholic school kids, man.
Wow.
Story never changes. Natives, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Sparhawks are natives.
The native unicorns.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you mean, like?
Yeah. Well, we're just rare.
Oh, you mean okay? Oh, you didn't like recently move here. I thought you meant like your people are from here. Like
no,
but that's cool. That's cool because I'm not a native, so
that's okay too.
Okay, like the people of the Colorado land.
Yes,
like
the Sparhawks are not relocations or transplants.
Okay.
He's also not part of a native tribe.
Okay.
I'm going to go out there and put my one racial thing out there. He's not a Native American that I know of.
No, it's English. Sparhawk is English.
Okay, Sparhawk.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Makes more sense
for sure.
Now then skip 10 years, right? And the second part of how we know each other, Andy worked at the same REI store that Tanya and I worked at, where we met before we got married. Okay. Andy was like the hot young cash register guy.
Okay.
That he basically was everything I wasn't at the time.
That makes sense.
I just wanted to hang out on the cash register, and I never moved from anything else other than REI. The discount and just selling REI memberships. And it put me my way through school here at Metro.
Okay, so what'd you study here at Metro?
I went to Metro for marketing, and so my degree is in marketing.
Awesome. So tell us, how did you get into doing this thing for the Brewers Association?
Okay, so, before every college had a fermentation studies or beer marketing program, Metro did.
Okay.
And so, a couple years in, I was able to take Michael Ray's fermentation or beer and spirits class is what it was called. And like I was telling Jay, the first day of the class is making Kahlúa mudslides in a classroom. And people are like looking in the windows of like, what are these guys doing with the bottles of, liqueurs and everything. Fantastic, super cool. Wasn't really into spirits. The second half of it was they kicked us out of the classroom down to Coors Field to hang out with the guys at Sandlot Brewing. Brewing, at the time, Primo Blue Moon.
Okay.
If you taste the Blue Moon now that's outside to there, I mean, there's something to behold of Blue Moon made on site at Coors Field. Fell in love with that. If you passed the Sandlot Brewers beer test, you got a ticket to the Great American Beer Festival. And so as 22, 23 years old, got to experience my first Great American Beer Festival, and it opened my eyes. I had no idea that there was so many, and probably at the time there were right around 1,000 to 1,500 craft breweries.
Yeah.
I said, this is what I want to do with my life, whether it's a brewer or something. Long story short, figured out who put on the Great American Beer Festival. It was the Brewers Association. worked my way in as an intern. You mentioned your intern.
Yep.
I was the intern that never ever wanted to leave.
Okay.
And so after we have all these great interns all around the country working in amazing breweries, I dug my fingernails in, and I've since been at the Brewers Association for 10 years. Not only as the intern, but now I get to have my official position and stuff.
You get a paycheck.
I do.
That's key.
And
after 10 years as an intern. Wait, it hasn't been 10 years.
10 years officially at the Brewers Association, maybe a year and a half as an intern. I heard, my future boss at the time interviewing kids from CU, and I'm just like, these guys don't know what they're talking about. Just keep me on. I'll wait until the board approves another position.
So it sounds like, we've talked to enough brewers now where everybody says it's a passion, right? It's a career of passion. It kind of sounds like it's the same thing, even if you're not brewing, but you're within, the brewery system. Everybody just loves oftentimes what they're doing.
Absolutely. And, when people say, well, what do you do at the Brewers Association? My, little pitch is, I get to be a beer geek. I get to tell consumers and media what's awesome about small and independent craft brewers. It's for them, it's sharing their passion through a beer. For me, it's sharing my passion for their passion through their stories. And that's what I do with craftbeer.com, and that's part of the Brewers Association to promote.
So is there a reason you never actually got into brewing yourself? It was never a draw?
I'm on the marketing side of things. I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
I homebrew, just as a hobby. It might be in the cards, but right now I love what I get to do through an association side of things.
Okay, makes total sense.
Let's,
Jay,
yeah,
you have questions to ask.
I do. I'm gonna
itching.
I'm look like I'm gonna wet my pants probably, because if I don't say it out loud, I'll forget the thought here in the next 5 minutes.
Hey, by the way, dry January, it works for you. Your skin looks better.
Does it?
Yeah,
I've been using
I've
been using a bronzing lotion too, though. I think that's separate
work.
from that. And I'm only putting it on my hips and my knees because they're the driest parts of my body. But there may be some sort of transference. I don't know.
I feel like you learn to drink like a brewer, or you just drink too much. Not you and I. I just think that there's one or the brewers are always drinking. Like they kind of have to be.
Yeah,
I can see how that can get sideways really fast.
They're at a steady burn, right?
Yeah.
Whereas,
for sure.
Yeah, you can go a couple different ways with this.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
dry January is good for you. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
By the time people hear this, it'll be February, and I'll look like shit again. I swear. I promise you guys.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Keep up with the bronzer, though.
Don't you? Yeah, the bronzer works. All right, that's good to know. Tanya Schrader always handing out the fashion tips. So actually, okay, where was I going with this though? Because I was gonna ask Andy specifically. Tell us about that first GABF that you went to, because I remember going to my first GABF. I was 21 or 22, and it was at Arapahoe Community College, and it was like a room full of nerds. And not to say that GABF is not still a room full of nerds; it's just a bigger room full of nerds. But if you 10-ish years ago. So it would have been 2007, 2008. What was GABF like back then for you?
I can remember, and I've written about this, you have these kind of aha moments. And, when people think about, the start of Great American Beer Festival, you always think of the line wrapping around the convention center and how insane that is. I can remember feeling like I was just getting sucked into this giant snake that was going into the convention center, and then it spews you out into this giant hall, and there's just all these, lines and lines of breweries, and you can just choose whatever you want. And, the description that I made was, when you're a kid and you're at the pool and you're excited to jump in the pool, and so, but that there's a lifeguard, you have the feeling that the lifeguard is watching you, so you run kind of like with your knees locked and your hands on the sides, and you're speed walking.
Yeah, you're speed walking on the deck. Did you kill our mic?
No, I forgot. We control each other's mics. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I don't control anything
comment?
in this life.
Somebody has to do the mixing.
I don't know.
Right?
Sorry, Andy, I shouldn't have interrupted because my technical
Co-host.
advisor here fucked it up.
Exactly.
You're power walking on the deck, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just waiting to get yelled at by a lifeguard to say no running, and just beelining it to the first brewery, and I was off from there.
The good news is there's no lifeguards at GABF.
Well, nowadays it's probably me.
Oh, that's not fun. Do you wear like a safety vest or something? Do you have a whistle?
I've had a walkie-talkie before, and I can remember a girl later in the night. We must have ran into each other or something, and I'm totally sober, and she's probably not, and she just looks at me, and to your point, she says, "Beat it, nerd."
Oh man.
Hey, we're all nerds at heart.
I act like I'm talking on my walkie-talkie, like security.
Perfect. Drunk one here.
Yeah, that's the perfect response in my opinion. So I have two thoughts on GABF at the moment. The first one is I feel like the last time I went and actually stood in line, it occurred to me that it was an excellent opportunity because of the nerd factor. 1,000 nerds held captive. Somebody should have been selling Comic-Con tickets to everybody in that line. That was my first thought. The second thought I had is I always think of GABF as like, this is what heaven's going to be like. And then you get in and you don't get enough beer and people are running around smacking your taster glass out of your hand and yelling. So maybe I've outgrown GABF. I don't know. Is there a point, do you think, Andy, where people will outgrow the GABF and they go to something that's more intimate? Or you mentioned before we went on the air or before we started recording the paired beer and food section of GABF. So give us a little background on that.
Yeah, I think that is certainly something that is valid. Have you gotten too old for it, or do you just adjust how you enjoy beer festivals? I mean, if we're in the industry, I go to a handful of beer festivals every year. Most of the time I'm working, and I can appreciate a beer festival for what it is without going and spiking a glass out of someone's hand or going all the way down a row and just drinking. I argue that you can't find enough to drink at the Great American Beer Festival for sure. Thousands of beers.
There's plenty to drink. I just genuinely feel like the sample size is insufficient for somebody like me with a belly that I'm carrying even in dry January. It takes a lot to fuel up this tank.
Well, you can always go back. And I get that a lot with people saying that the 1 ounce taster is not enough. And I would challenge them to drink an ounce of bleach and tell me if you can't tell me that it's going to kill you.
There you go. That's a good point.
We sell ourselves short on our sensory skills. The human sensory, nose is a lot more sensitive than we give ourselves credit for. But, to that point, and I get that GABF is a party.
It's a huge party.
Was it always that way? Was it always?
I think so.
Okay.
I other than the first one where it was just, mostly brewers and it was, an industry sort of thing. But over the years, people go and above all, beer's about having fun.
Yeah.
And it's not a wine festival where you're, carrying around your little plate of crackers and worrying about, what side of the hill, these grapes were grown on.
Right.
Now, to that point, beer is very experiential, and thank you for mentioning Paired. Is if you've ever been to Great American Beer Festival and didn't know that Paired was in back, which is that high end experience where the state's most amazing restaurants are paired with brewers, and you go there and you have 2 beers and they're creating a panna cotta for your stout or
I have no idea.
charbroiled oysters and everything like that. I mean, it's 2 different worlds. You have the craziness that is the Great American Beer Festival, and then you get into Paired, and it's calm. You can actually see outside. There's these beautiful lights.
Oh, you can actually see outside.
Yeah.
Does your cell phone work too in Paired? Because that's my other complaint.
That could be because everybody else is using their cell phone.
Yeah,
and
100,000 people in the same room at the same time drinking and trying to Google stuff. Yeah, it's a disaster.
No doubt. So, but you're absolutely right. Maybe take a break for.
Oh,
we're
on a break, but that's a Tanya Schrader directive, not a Jay Schrader directive. Well, no, Sam, I've never heard of Paired, or at least it's not been on my radar. And maybe maybe this is more for us to learn stuff than anything else.
I agree. I want to pull in this yarn though for a second because we have a professional here, right? Who's on that back end or the backside of kind of what's going on with brewing in this state, and so.
Yeah, and I'd just like to point out on that note, Unfiltered is not just about beer and breweries, right?
No,
it's about all things craft beverage.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Which is why we have Andy here.
Yes.
Subject matter expert.
So what's going on in craft in Colorado? Because we read these articles, and whether it be the Denver Business Journal or whether it be the what's a Business Den,
Den, or what's the last one, Denverite.
I guess what I'm saying is what we hear from reporters is very much different from what we hear from brewers when we go and talk to them. So are we saturated? Are we okay? Like what's happening? Is it just changing?
Yeah, I think that's a great word for it. It's evolving, and it's been evolving for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Before I was probably of legal age to drink, people were telling me that you couldn't throw a beer bottle in this town without hitting up another brewery. People have been saying that Denver's been saturated for years, and that was before they had 50 to 80 breweries just in Denver alone.
Yeah.
So it's all relative. There's 7,000 breweries in the country. How many wineries are there?
Yeah.
12,000, I think.
Okay.
Nobody ever talks about when's this wine bubble gonna burst, or when's this restaurant bubble gonna burst. I mean, people are pretty okay with half of the restaurants going out of business within 5 years. The fact that small and independent craft brewers can continue to, maybe not double digits. I mean, that's just unreasonable.
Right.
To continue to grow double digits exponentially, but 5%, in a country of 7,000 breweries, we're gonna be okay.
Okay.
But the news, that's what media does.
Yeah.
Is they look for are there storm clouds on the horizon? They want to know that story.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sugarcoat it and say we're good. Like we're just going to continue to crush and everything. These are small businesses.
Yeah.
They have so many challenges. Add on to that they're part of one of the most highly regulated industries in our nation.
Yeah.
So. And add on to the fact that they have been successful, and now they're butting up against each other.
You touched upon something really important there, which is comparing the brewery to a restaurant. And I think we just assume, we being me and Jay and just beer drinkers in general, because we grow up drinking, Miller Lite and Budweiser and Coors, that the goal is to distribute.
Not
right?
Budweiser.
But not Budweiser. Okay.
I know where you hail from, but we don't drink Budweiser in this
Busch
city.
Light was what I
That's
drank
okay,
a lot of.
actually.
Okay.
I don't know why.
That's
I don't know
Budweiser.
why
That's
I prefer.
AB,
I don't know why I prefer one over the other, but
Okay.
I do.
The assumption is that you need to reach a certain point where you distribute, but I think what you just highlighted is for a lot of these breweries that are doing just fine, that's not the goal, right? The goal is not that. And I think reframing things that way, whether it be from a media perspective or whether it be on this podcast, is extremely important, because things like you had said it's actually a really good industry compared to some of its competitors.
Yeah, and you're seeing more breweries pull back from that. And that was maybe the idea. Oh, I got to start this brewery, and I got to start growing, and I got to open up new markets, and I got to be national. It's probably not going to happen anymore. Not
Right.
saying that it can't, but it's entirely possible that we will go back to this age of every neighborhood having their own brewery. And we talk about, I see on the Tivoli menu, they show who's local.
Yeah.
That's a term that has its pitfalls as well, but for the most part, people connect with their local brewery, and that's where they like to go, and that's where they go after a bike ride or a run and stuff like that. So it's absolutely changing. The name of the game is not grow now. It's connect with your customers and create a brand.
Yeah.
It's got to be good for the product too, you would think. I mean, if that's the focus, is your neighborhood or whatever, as opposed to trying to make enough that you can distribute, you're going to focus more, I would think, on taste, on quality of your raw materials and stuff like this. I hope. I don't know. Are you seeing that?
I'd hope.
Yeah.
I would say, and that's another thing that you hear, people complain about is, the quality of beer. The vast majority of beer in the United States is exceptional, for sure.
Yeah.
Those outliers are always going to be the ones that get talked about.
Yeah.
And then you also have to think that beer, I already mentioned, is very experiential. It's very personal as well.
Yeah.
What you think is a terrible beer, is it? Just because, I'm drinking in Roadrunner Red right now. It's the Tivoli's Amber.
It's my go-to here as well. Every time.
If I gave somebody that was really, really wanting, a Saison or a hazy IPA and everything, this beer, would they be able to appreciate that this is a damn good amber ale?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
People, and again, there's this whole other generation that's coming up that probably didn't drink Fat Tire and all these other beers when amber ales and pale ales were really popular, when they were the hazy IPAs. And now we have this whole new push of these different beers. And you see some of the old timer brewers kind of, bristling at that, like, hey, I worked hard to make these amazing German style lagers and people are just adding lactose to their beers. What's up with that? Well, that's just what's popular right now, and we have to continue to educate, and that's why I like to come on these sorts of podcasts and expand your knowledge. If all you know is a milkshake IPA with sparkles and whipped cream or something like that, I don't want to.
Does that actually exist?
Oh yeah, where do I get that?
Holy shit!
It should be. I'm sure someone was doing it.
If you guys haven't had that yet, somebody's got to get out there and make that IPA with milkshake, sparkles, and whipped cream.
Yeah.
I won't drink it, I promise you, but
I'd definitely try it.
Yeah.
But I think
Andy looks like a guy that would try anything once, maybe twice.
Definitely. I think with in that regard, I'm not an art buff by any means, but if there's these new entrants coming in and all they're experiencing is these very new styles of beer, I think of it like you need to be introduced to a type of art that's very overt. So like it's got to be bright and flashy and like, oh, I really, really like that. You're probably not going to get into, very, very classical stuff. So is that a gateway to understand that there's a whole other world of art? Same thing with beer. Have this say, oh my gosh, this is beer, and then expand your world and don't just stick with the hazy stuff or whatever.
I was talking to the director of sales here, Doug. What's Doug's last name, Steph? Rittenberg. There we go.
Doug
he was talking
is
about
a fixture in this place.
Yeah, for sure. But he made a good point. Like 15 years ago, if you went to a college bar, everybody's drinking Miller Lite and Coors Light. Just mass-produced beer. And now, and I would agree, right? Even if you go to the Stadium Inn at DU, people aren't drinking that at all. It's the college kids are drinking craft beer, right? And that might be at Goose Island, right, or something like that, or a Fat Tire.
I'm going to go out on a limb. Goose Island's not a craft anymore.
I know, you read the book.
I did.
You got to drop your book.
I got to drop my book in here. No. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. So I mean, I think the appeal, but also the influence of this industry is significant enough to see how it's changing the larger picture in ways that we kind of forget to see.
You're right. This is no longer a cottage industry. This
Right.
is not a niche market. Craft beer is mainstream. Now, again, with that comes that much larger fish are going to want to, jump in on that, and that's what I'm sure you're talking about Josh Noel's book.
I am. Yeah. Goose Island, the barrel-aged stout and selling out. The story of Goose Island's sale to Anheuser-Busch.
I feel like they should be giving us money.
They really should be giving us money.
Whoever that
It's a
publisher
fairly
is.
new book, too. I mean, I've pushed it quite a bit, and it's only been out on shelves for like a year and a half, frankly.
It's on my list.
You should read it.
Heard great things.
Oh, yeah, you should read it.
We've actually heard a lot of industry professionals. You are that. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Brewers are like, you got to read this book.
We're not industry professionals by any means.
No, that's
Although
that makes this podcast great.
Reading the book makes me slightly more intelligent on the beverage side of things.
I'm just a train wreck of a human being, professional and
Yeah.
personal.
We won't get into that. So Andy's mentioned a couple of keywords here that trigger a couple keywords in my mind. Community, right? Local. And then Andy mentioned he was a student here at MSU. Dr. Samuel J. is a professor here at MSU. I myself am a recent grad.
You are?
I am, yeah. It only took me 20
Last month.
Only took me 20 years.
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. But it makes me think about days gone past. Andy, do you remember what was in this space when you were in college? Or what was in this space?
I don't think anything was at the time. There was a bar prior to me.
Many, many years ago, yeah.
Yes, but when I think of the Tivoli, I just think of just like overly burnt Subway sandwich bread.
Yeah.
I walked
heard
right
that
in and
before.
it just took me right back.
It's
like,
still down there, baby.
that oregano garlic bread should have never gotten into this place because it'll never come out.
The Subway and the McDonald's are both still down there, if you can believe that, which scares the fuck out of me, frankly. But it also, I can't resist getting a Tivoli basement McDonald's hamburger when I come here because they're some of the best hamburgers I've ever had, frankly. Probably because I was poor at the time and it was all I could afford. Well, okay, so Andy went to school here. This place was empty, and for a stretch, this was a big hole in the ground. When I went to school here, this was a coffee shop and like a quick order deli, and they made some amazing breakfast stuff. But I always said, man, this used to be a brewery. Something should happen here. There was a bar in the basement at the time, and it was like a divey, seedy. I would never want to.
It was called the Boiler Room, right?
Yes, it was.
I've met people that have said, "I met my wife in the Boiler Room." Or
no kidding.
Yeah,
I met my wife at REI. I don't know.
I was there.
Almost, yeah. Andy. It's Andy's fault. Jesus. No, that's not true. So yeah, I guess where I'm going with this is Tivoli Brewing, the reinvention of it, the reemergence of it, has created a local brewery right here on the Metro campus, the Auraria campus, that I think contributes to a huge amount of community. Having recently graduated and come back to school here and spent way more time in the last 2 years here than I ever expected to. Probably more time in the last 2 years than I spent in the 18 years prior to that trying to graduate. Every chance I had to get out of class, every group project where we didn't need to be in the classroom, every pre-class meeting, if I was in charge of it, it occurred here in the Tivoli. And it makes me wonder, A, if this place had been here when I was in college the first time or the long time, would I have gotten out sooner? Or any? I mean, would you have spent time in a place like this while you were in college?
Oh, definitely. I mean, just coming in to meet with you guys, I mentioned, I wedged myself between two co-eds that were working on their laptops, sipping a beer. I mean, being that this is, a group of different schools, this does not get the sort of play as like going to Fort Collins or going to Boulder and everything like that. But had this been here when I went to school, I wouldn't have batted an eye. And I continue to be very proud of my education here. And
we all
like I said, it sparked my career.
Yeah, and they were rolling out the beverage program in bits and pieces, I think, one of the times I was here. But at that point in my life, it didn't make sense. It probably should have sparked more of interest for me. I'm going to point out, too, there's nothing wrong with hot, nerdy college girls working on laptops in the Tivoli. So
make sure 28 minutes, cut that out. Okay.
Yeah, no, don't cut that out. That's your next promo right there. Yeah. Unfiltered, presented by Tivoli. Looking for
true, it's unfiltered.
Yes, well, that's why we call it that. We're looking for hot, nerdy, laptop-using Metro students to rep our stuff.
He doesn't speak for me, honey. He doesn't speak for me.
The good news is Tanya doesn't listen to this shit, so
neither does my wife. We're okay. Okay, so you are an expert in an area I want to ask questions about. And so in terms of marketing, branding, this kind of stuff, what matters now in this environment? What are you seeing? I mean, because right, yes, it's very much similar to a restaurant, but even if you go down, we've spent some time down in Rhino, right, where you have 5 breweries that are within 4 or 5 blocks. What are you seeing from these, brewers, but also owners how are they standing out, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, we could definitely talk about Rhino in particular, but I'll kind of cop out on the marketing question, I guess, because I think the first thing that you need is you can't just be making quality beer. You can't just be making okay beer. In this day and age, you need to be making world-class beer.
Yeah.
And you need if you're not dumping some of it, you're probably not learning anything. Tradition, which is what Tivoli is, and innovation, which they do as well. That's the kind of the bookends of craft brewing. But can't stress enough, if you're not making a product that people like and will come back to, it is such a non-loyal market that, I've gone to breweries, plenty of breweries that I'm like, I went there. No need to ever go back.
Yeah,
okay.
we talk a lot about those breweries in this meeting space, this safe tabernacle that we have these conversations in, because frankly, I think between Sam and myself, and Andy probably here would drink us under the table, but there's a lot of beer consumed at this table on a regular basis.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it doesn't all have to happen right here in this holy place at Tivoli, but I mean, there's a lot of beer that I won't go back and drink. And the part for me that blows my mind is how the hell are these guys still open? And sometimes I really point to the local side of things, right? Like some people will put up with bad beer to have good people in a friendly environment that they can walk to and stumble home from.
I think that, that's a great point because we have, talked about local. Local's not going to cut it anymore. No. Particularly with so many, with the grocery stores opening up and everything, there's a whole new wave of breweries from outside of the state of Colorado that have been chomping at the bit for this to happen. And now they're going to, start getting into, local bars. A lot of breweries have guest taps and everything like that. So, it's got to be world class or close to it.
Mm-hmm.
It can't just be local. You can't just be, well, we're the only one in town, because soon you won't be. It's how do you, and that's to the brand is, what do you believe in? What are your beers? What is your tap room in Rhino? What does it say that you're about?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you connect with those people? And then I'll add another part of it, which is, the other nuances that I deal with on the Brewers Association national level is, who are you inviting in? But who are you signaling that you're not welcome? And we talk about that of, if
go down that rabbit hole. Go ahead.
Yeah,
just
please,
go.
Jesus.
We
They
need
just
to be
reopened
having this conversation.
They just reopened the government today, so we might as well open up a new
We need
can
to be
of
having this
worms.
conversation. Yes, you're right.
Are you separating out women? Are all your tap handles half naked gals in bikinis, which have never been an issue and everything? Doesn't necessarily fall in with what craft is about, the adventurousness and everything like that. But are you signaling maybe some women are okay with it? Maybe our wives are aren't concerned. Maybe some people are like, they don't want my business as a woman because they're just catering to men, or any of the other things, right? That's a huge thing on the national level in Colorado of it can't just be the quote unquote and I'm it, the bearded white guy anymore. And this is important because people are going to listen to this and say, I'm a bearded white guy. I don't care who comes and drinks beer with me. But here's the point is that what I never understood is that every time I've ever gone into a brewery, and this will be my soapbox moment, and I'll
No, have them.
But I've never gone into a brewery or a tap room or anything and not felt welcome.
Yeah.
And it was impressed upon me that people of color and women, not only do sometimes they not feel welcome, but they need to plan their escape. And that was the most scary thing for me to say is, yeah, these guys invited me in and everything like that, but as soon as you get to a couple beers and then they're saying, hey, let's drink this barley wine, I need to figure out, hey, how do I escape this if things go south? And this is of people of color or women and everything. So, having that awareness has really kind of changed my aspect of how breweries brand.
That's crazy. I mean, that's
scary.
That's the most insightful thing we've heard on this podcast.
Scary as fuck, though. I mean, we got a couple of dads here in the room.
Yeah.
We got a couple of husbands here in the room.
It's so true. Like, I think what the issue is, or I guess not the issue, but our perception is very much skewed because of where we are. And I'm not trying to toot Tivoli's horn whatsoever, but it's on a college campus.
Yeah.
So you get a different clientele. Now think about there's plenty of breweries that you and I have been to, not for this show, to be clear.
Yeah, we're not throwing anybody under the bus here yet.
Not yet. No, but seriously, not for the show, but we've been to breweries together where it's like, oh, this is not welcoming to
everybody looks like you or me.
Exactly. And that's a serious issue, not because like a liberal issue. I think it's a business issue too, right? It's like you have to expand to different folks.
Sure, and everybody's thinking of it, and it feels real dirty to say, how do we attract more Latinos, or how do we get more women? And that's not how craft beer has ever been.
Yeah.
We should be more of like, hey, we love our beer and we love enjoying it with it. And if someone feels like they cannot have that experience or whatever experience that they have with my beer, I think that's of an issue. Now, there are, like, I can think of an example, and we were talking about Broadway and True, which is a great brewery and everything like that. Do
you feel welcome and True?
I do as soon as you get there. And why it is because you go in and you see the heavy metal people on one side, and then you see a dad with 3 of his kids, and they're just unaware of the dark metal that's going on. And I love that. And I think that's cool. And they've figured out a way to balance that.
Yeah.
That's Broadway Baker right there. And we talk about True off the air quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I worked a half a block from True. I wouldn't set foot in that place. Part of it, frankly, was because their hours didn't jive with my banker's hours.
Yeah.
You got to be open by 1 o'clock for me to share a beer while I'm working, frankly. I hope my boss isn't watching this. But yeah, True's a good example of the reverse effect, right? Black Sky, I think, is another one, frankly. I mean, the heavy metal bar, and they kind of turned me off. But at the end of the day,
There's enough beer drinkers, though, and I think that's what Andy's kind of really talking about. There's enough beer drinkers in this town, right? It's known for that, where you can actually have that niche. You
Exactly.
can fit and make money doing it if you take that approach that you are just the restaurant. And I'd never, again, this is like what I've learned from this podcast.
And those places might not be my place that I go all the time.
It's not
for you.
But
Go-to.
everybody's got somebody that loves
Yeah.
Scandinavian
Yeah.
dark mass metal.
Fucking
And then they're like, you're in town? I got the place for you
No
to
shit.
see. And this is great. And the beers are amazing.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of like getting out and going, I don't wear a cowboy hat all the time. And I'm not saying that I would go line dancing. But if that was the plan and everything like that, you kind of jump into those themes and you enjoy that. So those breweries do that well. And you got to tip the cap that, they haven't totally pushed people away. They're just being who they are. And that's what people love about craft brewers is like, oh my gosh, they're doing their thing. They're passionate about heavy metal and beer. And I want to enjoy that too. It's all about experiences.
have we been into a single brewery where we've recorded that seemed exactly like another brewery? I mean,
No.
Tivoli is a melting pot. I mean, truly.
Yeah.
Spangalang is a
Different.
tiny little oasis in the middle of what, 5 points?
Yep.
Ratio, those guys have their own thing going on
Yeah.
over there. I still haven't figured it out. Great beer, great guy, Jason. But I mean, they're just
It's punk. It's punky.
punk.
It's kinda,
That's kind of it. That's really what it comes from.
But it wouldn't necessarily be, what, you were surprised by him saying, I was in a punk band. We were in the music scene. We decided to open up this brewery.
This guy listens to
This
our
guy
podcast.
listened to our podcast. This is huge. You're listener number 3. Thank you.
I was talking to Jason the week before, and we were actually at a concert. I mean, they don't scream, we were in a band, and they don't have band posters all over. It's fun, it's punky, and everything. Everybody can enjoy it. That guy actually opened up for Blink-182 and stuff like that.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I was just blown away.
Jason's a cool guy.
He's a really nice guy.
The fact that I was in there in slacks and a button-up shirt that day did not go. I mean, I don't think Jason cared, but it did not work the way it was supposed to.
Jay and I have talked. Excuse me. Jay and I have talked about this a little bit, but I think my hypothesis is the demographic, no matter the color, no matter the socioeconomic status, that a brewery goes after is very similar to perhaps the demographic that the local bar went after when our dads were going to bars, right?
Yeah, the corner pub.
But what has happened is we are on our phone so often, quite honestly, right? I mean, that's the additive, right? Where the personal connection isn't necessarily there on a day-to-day basis, and so we are looking for those places that we can go to in order to hang out and obviously in this case drink good beer. And I wonder if in a place like this, in a place like Seattle, right, in a place like San Diego, where there's a hub of good beer, Maryland, I suppose. Breweries are able to take advantage of that. I mean, are you? I guess what are you seeing on the national scale, not just here? Because I know you have contact with folks outside of Colorado. Is it like what? Why do people get into this, and why do people drink craft beer?
Are you talking about consumers or the brewers?
Both. I want both.
Okay.
I want both. I mean, he's got an idea of both.
Well, I think on why do craft brewers get into it?
Yeah.
People love beer.
Yeah.
And this is going on, several decades of this innovation. American beer used to be a joke.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's a good point.
and now it represents this kind of, we talked about it being kind of mainstream now, but it's always been the counterculture. It's always going to be counter to, whatever the big guys are, what your dad's drank or what you drank in college and everything. It represents, kind of an ability to express yourself. You hear so often, these breweries or these guys that are opening up breweries. Oh, I was an engineer, or I was a lawyer, or a banker, or something like that, and I just couldn't handle the grind anymore. I needed to do something to express myself. Yeah. I think that's what initially gets them into it, and what's one thing that I've never thought of. We were talking about all these kind of niche breweries and how, you can cater to those sorts. There's enough breweries that offers that sort of thing. Yeah. That you can kind of carve out your own little neighborhood and do that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. But America is a beer loving nation. Yeah. I think it's part of who we are, particularly in Colorado. It's part of my identity. It's part of our identity.
Yeah, I don't think I've done anything without a beer involved in
I wonder if the key
15 or 20 years.
The key to good drinking is just whoever's in office at the time.
Let's not make a thing about that today. I didn't mean to be excited that the government reopened Yeah. We didn't even talk about that.
But in all seriousness, Larry, talk to economists about the boom of AB. Right?
All right, I gotcha.
At a given time, and a lot of times, right? Like it's people like to drink, not just to be social, but they like to drink, to kind of forget about things sometimes, and that's not always a good thing. Don't get me wrong, but
no. Usually it's a horrible thing, but sometimes it's a
okay. We are at 42 minutes.
Yeah. Are we wrapping it up?
No,
here?
I got one more question. I mean, are you okay?
Oh, you got a question? What's your question? What's my question?
What my question is, when you go in and you are you consulting breweries? Like, what are you doing in terms of like helping them?
Mostly, what I'm doing is. What I want to do is I just want to listen to them. Okay. I want to hear their stories. Okay. I'm on the promote side. I write content for craftbeer.com. I want to know what makes them unique. What is setting themselves apart from the other 6,999 breweries, and hopefully promoting that sort of stuff and communicating that with media and consumers. Consulting. I don't know if we do really consulting as a trade organization. We certainly give as many resources as we can to hopefully do what a trade organization is supposed to do, is make sure that the industry is happy and healthy. With this change, there seems to be a disconnect. The vast majority of breweries right now are very small, and then you have the larger breweries too, and everything. There's division everywhere. In this country. How do we as an association serve all those competing interests, and that's what we continue to do. And I see myself as a servant, a steward of small and independent craft brewers.
That's pretty sweet.
That's amazing. Yeah. Now, this is not the question I was thinking of, but Andy took me here. As a proponent of craft beer and the go-to guy for writing and reviewing, maybe not reviewing, but meeting with and learning about these breweries, what I've seen over the last couple of years, and this is impressive to me, having known you off and on for as long as I have, Andy's a go-to guy in other spaces for what's your thoughts on beverages? What's your thoughts on beer? And I've seen his name enough times to know that this is not just something I made up in my own head. But the one that sticks out specifically was, I think, like Outdoor Magazine maybe, or something along those lines, did a quick one of their small boxes, and Andy's name and a couple of quick questions was in it. And really the reason it sticks out in my mind is because he talked about a beer that he loved, and B, did a quick instant review on the Yeti Colster that he could put a beer in it, leave it on the front seat of his car, go fly fishing for an hour, and come back and have a cold beer. And first of all, I called bullshit as soon as I read that. Second of all, I was wrong and now have 3 of the damn things, and probably should buy stock in Yeti. But really, my point is, what made you, or what do you think made the transition for you from I'm the proponent to all of a sudden people are looking at me as the subject matter expert? Not just guys like me and Sam, because we need people like you for sure. But when a larger trade organization or a larger publication comes here and they say, Andy, tell us about beer. Go. That's got to make you feel special. What does that make you think, though?
Yeah, that's great. And I remember talking about a Colster. I don't remember where it was. And
I'm going to find the magazine.
I think I'm in the back of some book somewhere. I get opportunities. I like to talk about stuff. You develop an opinion, you research it, you check it to see if you're bullshit or not, and you become confident in what you talk about. Problem is that everybody's an expert in craft beer these days, and I think what I've learned is I'm no expert. There's so many other people that know so much more than I do, but at least I know I'm an expert of what I like and what I know, and being confident to share that and wanting to share it. I think that provides a value to people. It used to be I'd beeline it to the bar just to talk to people and everything like that, but sometimes you feel like now if you try to engage with somebody what you think about a beer, they're going to disagree with you, and not to say that that's not right, but just totally off on some other tangent. We've lost this opportunity just to talk about beer, just to have fun, and that's kind of what I get to do, and that's why I jump at an opportunity to talk to you guys, because we get to talk about beer.
Yeah.
You said this is beer, not beer and breweries. This is all beer and breweries to me. This is what I talk about.
It's all beer. One and the same. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. He gave me a little bit of confidence boost that it makes me feel like we actually are subject matter experts because we like beer and we like talking about beer.
Well, I think we learn every week. Right?
It's a little bit of credibility.
Yeah, it's very clear that the people who do this love what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right, for the most part.
Or love beer,
nice. Including
or both.
Andy, right?
Or with you guys, you like dissecting stuff and talking about stuff. You give me a platform to spread what I want to talk about.
Appreciate that. I'm wondering, I don't know, I've got an idea for breweries to save money on the front end.
Write it down.
Yeah,
Don't put it out there.
I'm not going to put it out there.
Don't put it out there.
Save it.
We're going to patent that shit first.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think I got a hell of a wrap up here.
Go for it.
Andy's on the cutting edge of this stuff. Give us the top 3 breweries you are looking forward to opening in 2019.
There we go. Good.
We have tracked 2,500 breweries and planning throughout the country.
Holy shit. All right, let's back that question up. Give me your top 3 that you're looking forward to in the Colorado area.
I'll tell you the top 3 breweries that I've visited recently that
okay,
I think are worth checking out in the Colorado area. I just got a chance to visit in the Baker neighborhood, Novel Strand.
Is that off First in a new build? We've talked. Yeah. It's a coffee shop and a brewery, right?
It's a coffee shop and a brewery.
Yeah. Okay.
We've got to look out to that one.
And I don't think they're members of the Brewers Association, so I'm not plugging anybody and everything like that. I just happened to go, and I thought that it's a cool vibe.
Yeah.
When we talk about the feeling and everything. Another one, Long Table in Park Hill.
I've heard of that too. Yeah.
Really good.
My buddies Brock and Mike go there.
Is that the one where?
Is that in the Stanley Beer Hall?
No. It's like smack dab. What's really cool is the bartender showed me the neighborhood around them. And you talk about local. They're not far off of Colfax. Nobody talks about them, but they are smack dab in this neighborhood. And he says, look at all this. People will come. We will be a local brewery. The truest sense of the word. Look at all these houses. It's really, really cool.
Long Table.
Yeah.
Put that on the list. Yeah.
Check them out. A little bit brighter than Novel Strand. And then I live up north, Westminster, Broomfield area. Without thinking of another newer brewery, they've gotten a ton of accolades. It's Four Noses is doing great stuff as well.
Is so
is it their Brute IPA we keep talking about?
No, They make a Brute.
Yeah,
they make a Brute, but I mean, they're just from beer drinkers in this state. It's a top 5-10 brewery.
All right, road trip.
Yeah,
and I represent 70% of the breweries in the country, and I don't want to make any. We're really lucky to be in Colorado, even now.
Yeah,
approaching 400 craft breweries. The vast majority of them are doing just amazing stuff, and they're doing what I said. They're doing it right, and they're trying to make world-class beer. And we're really, really lucky to be in a state like this and in a town like this. No,
I mean, to be able to go from Four Noses Odd 13 to the WeldWorks back down to, I don't know, fucking, fiction. That's, you're right.
We could have a whole show about WeldWorks and how, they specifically wanted to to change the narrative of Greeley. It's not just, you think of Greeley when a snowstorm's coming in.
True.
They wanted to do that, and now there's all those other breweries that are popping up. Greeley's become a destination. That's fantastic.
God, it's crazy. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful industry.
Yeah.
that we've decided
Yeah.
to delve ourselves into.
Yeah, I mean, there's no coming back. That's for sure.
Well, Andy, thank you so much. One last cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Oh
For Andy.
crap! My glass is empty
Yeah,
and
yeah,
gone.
yeah.
Cheers.
Now we
Thank
have
you,
a business
Andy.
meeting after this. Thanks everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show, and look forward to next week. Right?
For
Do you have anything else?
sure.
Good to see you off the wagon.
Yeah. I was thirsty. Believe me.
You look a little beat up off the wagon, but you're more fun.
All
All right. Take care, Jay.
Sam, thank you.
Thanks,
Andy,
guys.
cheers.
Andy, thanks.